In country music, some voices just sing songs, and then there are voices that define an era. For 60 years, the sound of Connie Smith has been a bedrock of the genre, measure of authenticity, and a source of deep emotion. It's a voice Dolly Parton once called one of only 3 real female singers in the world, and it has echoed from the stage of the Grand Ole Opry to the record players of millions. But online, stories about our legends can take on a life of their own. Whispers become headlines, and concern gets twisted into tragedy in the echo chamber of the internet. Lately, a dark story has started following Connie Smith's name. Titles across social media paint a grim picture. Connie Smith is now 83, and how she lives is sad. They talk about a devastating stroke, a tumor, and a heartbreaking decline that has left her a shadow of her former self. With her husband, Marty Stewart, preparing to say goodbye. These stories are powerful and emotional. They've left millions of fans heartbroken, believing that one of country music's most enduring lights is fading. But with all the sorrow and speculation, we have to ask, what's the real story? Today, we're looking at the true life of Connie Smith. We'll explore the incredible highs of her career, the very real struggles she's faced, and the love story that supported her through it all. Most importantly, we're going to confront these troubling rumors head-on, separating the heartbreaking fiction from the inspiring facts. This is the real story of Connie Smith at 83, a story not of sadness, but of incredible resilience, enduring faith, and the unbreakable spirit of a true country music queen. To really get who Connie is, you have to understand the massive impact she had on music. Constance June Meter was born on August 14, 1941, in Elkhart, Indiana, but her soul was forged in West Virginia and Ohio. She was one of 14 children, raised in a home where hardship was a constant companion. Her father's struggle with alcoholism cast a dark shadow, and life wasn't easy. But even in that difficult home, there was a sanctuary: music. Her stepfather played the mandolin, and her brothers played fiddle and guitar. Saturday nights were a sacred ritual, with the family gathered around the radio, tuned to the Grand Ole Opry. Listening to singers like Kitty Wells and Jean Shepard was more than entertainment. It was a lifeline. It was then that a quiet 5-year-old girl made a bold declaration: "Someday, I'm gonna sing on the Grand Ole Opry." But that dream seemed a million miles away. She didn't have privilege or connections. Her path was paved with pure grit. A severe lawnmower accident as a teen almost cost her a leg. During her long recovery, she was given a guitar, and she taught herself to play, unlocking the powerful voice within. After graduating high school as salutatorian, she lived a humble life as a telephone operator, a clerk, and a mother. She believed her performing days were limited to local talent shows. But fate had other plans. In August of 1963, Connie entered a talent contest at a country music park in Ohio. The prize was $5 silver, but the real prize was who was in the audience. The judge was whispering Bill Anderson, one of country's biggest stars. Connie took the stage and sang Jean Shepard's "I Thought of You." Anderson was stunned. He heard a voice that could stop traffic, brimming with raw, bluesy emotion. He encouraged her to come to Nashville, and though she hesitated, he was persistent. In 1964, he paid for her to record a demo. One of those songs was a ballad he'd written called "Once a Day." He played it for Chet Atkins at RCA Records, who offered Connie a contract on the spot. On July 16, 1964, Connie recorded her first single. The result was a phenomenon. "Once a Day" was released and climbed the charts, hitting #1 and staying there for an astonishing 8 weeks. It was the first debut single by a female country artist to ever reach the top spot, a record that stood for nearly 50 years. The success was instant and overwhelming. On July 18, 1964, she debuted on the Grand Ole Opry, the very stage she'd dreamed of as a child. A year later, she was officially inducted as a member. She rattled off 19 consecutive top 10 hits and became a fixture in country music. Her voice was her signature. It was powerful and soulful, with a unique cry that conveyed immense pain. George Jones called her his favorite female singer. But the most famous praise came from Dolly Parton, who famously declared, "You know, there's really only 3 female singers in the world: Barbra Streisand, Linda Ronstadt, and Connie Smith. The rest of us are only pretending." Connie's career in the 1960s was a rocket ship, and the ride was dizzying. But behind the curtain of sold-out shows and #1 records, a deep personal conflict was brewing. The life of a touring musician clashed with the core of her life, her family, and her Christian faith. By the late 1960s, Connie had become a devout, born-again Christian, and this spiritual awakening completely reshaped her priorities. The glamour of stardom felt hollow compared to her desire to be a present mother. In a move that was almost unthinkable for a star at her level, Connie chose to step back. She didn't quit, but she dramatically cut back her touring schedule. She focused on recording, which allowed her to stay in Nashville with her family. Her music began to reflect her faith, and she recorded several successful gospel albums. While she continued to have country hits, her focus had shifted. Being a mother and living a life of faith was more important than being the biggest star in country music. This was also a time of personal turmoil. Her first marriage ended, and subsequent marriages were also challenging. The stability she craved remained elusive. In a 2021 interview, she looked back on her choices without regret, saying her priority was always her children and family. She walked away from the peak of her fame for what she valued most, a decision that baffled the industry but defined her integrity. But stepping back from the limelight came at a professional cost. As the 1970s wore on, her presence on the charts waned. By the early 1980s, she had largely disappeared from mainstream radio. She remained a beloved member of the Grand Ole Opry, but for nearly 2 decades, she wouldn't release a new secular album. The sadness, for many fans, wasn't in her personal life, but in the absence of her incredible voice from the broader music world. While Connie was settling into her life as an Opry legend, a young man who'd admired her for years was building his own legendary career. That man was Marty Stuart. Their story is country music folklore. In 1970, an 11-year-old Marty Stuart went to a Connie Smith concert in Mississippi. He was so mesmerized that he turned to his mother and said, "I'm going to marry her someday." It was a dream that took nearly 30 years to come true. Marty became a star in his own right, but his admiration for Connie never faded. He saw her as one of country music's greatest and purest artists. By the mid-1990s, Connie's kids were grown, and she felt the pull to create music again. She needed a producer who understood her traditional sound, and as she recalled, "The only person I could think of was Marty Stuart." She asked him if he'd be interested, and he said he'd be honored. A few days later, he came to her house, and a deep connection was immediately formed. As Marty said, their friendship quickly blossomed into romance. In July of 1997, Marty's childhood proclamation came true. He and Connie were married. Their marriage started a beautiful new chapter for them both. It was a partnership built on mutual respect, shared faith, and a deep love for traditional country music. Marty produced her 1998 comeback album and became her biggest champion. They became an inseparable pair, touring, writing, and recording together. Here were 2 titans of country music, 17 years apart, who had found their perfect partner in each other. But a terrifying new challenge was just around the corner, one that would spark the very rumors we're talking about today. 4 years. Connie's life with Marty was one of quiet contentment. Then, in early 2021, as the world was grappling with the pandemic, the COVID-19 virus found its way into their home. Both Connie and Marty contracted the virus in January, but Connie's condition grew critical. She was hospitalized with severe pneumonia and sepsis. For 11 days, she fought for her life. In a 2021 interview, she admitted, "There were a few days where I wasn't sure if I was going to make it." A source close to the family reportedly said, "We were preparing for the worst." It was a terrifying time, but Connie, a lifelong fighter, pulled through in what doctors called a miraculous recovery. However, the battle wasn't over. Connie became a COVID long hauler, and her recovery was slow. She spent months in rehabilitation to regain her strength. She said, "I'm still in the long haulers clinic at Vanderbilt, but I'm hanging in there, and I made it." This real, documented, and very serious health crisis is the seed from which a forest of lies has grown. And this is where the sadness narrative took a dark and fictional turn. Online, especially on gossip-focused YouTube channels, the story of her COVID battle was twisted. Apparently, the true story of a resilient 80-year-old beating a severe illness wasn't tragic enough. So, a new story was made up. The pneumonia and sepsis became a devastating stroke. Then, a sizable tumor behind her left temple was added as the cause. The story got more elaborate with every retelling, claiming the tumor was inoperable and that she was left unable to speak or move. These reports, presented with solemn music, claimed Marty Stuart was preparing for her imminent death. They were, in one word, false. There are no credible reports, no official statements, and no articles from real news sources to back up any of this. The story of a stroke and a brain tumor is a fabrication, a cruel piece of clickbait that preys on the emotions of devoted fans. It's possible the fiction grew from her real COVID battle or from confusion with obituaries of other women named Connie Smith. But the result was a viral myth, a heartbreaking story that just isn't true. So, if Connie isn't bedridden or in a tragic decline, what is her life really like today at 83? The answer is simple. She lives as a survivor. She lives as an active legend. The best proof against these rumors is her own schedule. Far from being in seclusion, Connie Smith is still a constant, beloved presence on the stage of the Grand Ole Opry. In fact, on August 20th, 2025, the Grand Ole Opry is holding a massive celebration to honor her 60th anniversary as a member, a milestone only one other female artist has ever reached. The night is set to feature tribute performances from stars like Vince Gill, Chris Janson, and Marty Stuart. That's not the schedule of a woman on her deathbed. It's the schedule of a living, working legend. Does she live exactly as she did when she was 30? Of course not. the severe bout with COVID did take a toll. Fans note she often sits on a stool during her sets, a concession to her illness and the natural process of aging. Her schedule isn't as rigorous as it once was, but her voice, that one vokind instrument that captivated the world 60 years ago, is still there. It's still powerful, still emotional, and still capable of breaking hearts. The only real sadness in Connie Smith's story today isn't some phantom illness. It's the sad fact that a legend's legacy can be so easily hijacked by baseless rumors. Online, the sadness lies in a media culture that prioritizes clicks over compassion and sensationalism over truth. The real story of Connie Smith at 83 is not one of sorrow, but one of triumph. It's the story of a woman who survived hardship, conquered the music world, and walked away from fame for her family and faith. A woman who found the love of her life, and a woman who, in her 80s, faced down a life-threatening illness, recovered, and got right back on the stage where she belongs. In the end, the story of Connie Smith is now 83, and how she lives is sad. Says more about our online world than it does about Connie Smith. It shows a hunger for tragedy that can easily bury the more powerful, inspiring truth. Connie Smith's life is not a tragedy. It is a testament to the power of a great song, the strength of faith, and the resilience of the human spirit. She is the sweetheart of the Grand Ole Opry, a country music Hall of Famer, and a voice for the ages. She is a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and a survivor. Her legacy isn't written in today's clickbait headlines, but in the grooves of her timeless records and in the hearts of millions. At 83, Connie Smith is still here, still singing, and still a beacon of what is true and real in country music. And that is not sad. That is beautiful. What are your favorite Connie Smith songs, and what do you think about her incredible legacy? Let us know in the comments below. We love hearing your stories. And if you enjoyed this look into the true story of a country music legend, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We have many more stories to share about the icons you love. Thanks for watching.